welcome to Unclouded Eye. I'm Ashley Brooks.
And I'm Ty Gowan.
And we are your source for the astrological forecast and for some cosmic chit-chat.
I'm ready to dive into this week because we went in depth last week. And Momo's joining us as well.
Oh my God,
I'm so happy that he's here.
I'm so happy. Yeah, he wasn't here last episode.
He's got stuff to do during the day.
Yeah, I mean, he's a busy cat. He's got a full social calendar.
Yep, he's sniffing an ant over there. I think I saw him doing that.
Okay.
How are your cats doing?
They're great. I have two cats. They are 16.
No, Momo. Sorry. Just keep going. So Momo has done a little digestive issue right now. So him chewing the plant we're gonna stop the podcast for that if that happens again.
Look at him go.
Oh my gosh. Let me know if he's eating this plant.
He's just sniffing around.
Okay, gosh.
Yeah, so my cats are 16 now. I've had them since they were kittens. They're from the same litter. They're lovely and wonderful, and they're doing great. I took Boo out on her little leash in the backyard yesterday.
I saw the pictures. I loved it.
Yeah, she does great on the leash. She actually likes it. She lets me put on the harness on her and she's ready to go.
You know that I love Boo, but my heart is forever with Chin.
My sweet Chi-Chi boy.
So what Ash is playing down is that she owns a cat that is the karmatic, I would say, not like a resurrection, but or whatever.
Reincarnation?
Yeah, I would say reincarnation is the right word for it, of Genghis Khan.
We used to say that when he was a kitten because he was very scary. When he was a kitten, he would attack you in your sleep. But he's actually very gentle and sweet now. I think that if he is Genghis, he's had a lifetime as this cat to chill out.
Maybe if Genghis lived long enough, he would have also chilled out too.
Yeah, well, maybe. Or, maybe he had to have many lifetimes as cats to...
Maybe that's it. And I don't know a lot about Genghis Khan, so I hope I'm not being incredibly I
think he killed a lot of people.
So let's talk lightly about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My cat is a sweetheart, although the mice population might, say.
So out of my Genghis Khan moment, let's hard cut to the forecast this week.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so this week we're talking about July 8th through the 14th. And Monday, July 8th, we have two aspects occurring. Venus is in Cancer currently, and it's sextiling over to Uranus in Taurus at 7:04 a.m.
What does that mean?
Sextile is a gentle aspect. It's not as lucky as a trine, but it's very harmonious, just the same.
Okay.
So whereas a trine brings like good fortune your way without doing much, sextile usually is like an invitation towards something good, but you have to take action for it.
Oh, I think that's better anyway.
I think
then
so
you're
too.
more thankful for it.
Yeah. One thing that's a little bit of a sidebar, but it's too interesting not to share. People that have like nothing but trines in their birth chart, even though you think they would be set up for a lot of success, they can sometimes end up having very tragic lives because they don't know how to handle like stress and adversity when it happens.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
I bet I know people like this, and it would be interesting to read their chart and be like, oh, you're all triney, baby.
Yeah, and it's rare, like, if you have a few trines, that's awesome. But if you're nothing but trines, like maybe someday we'll talk about him, but F. Scott Fitzgerald, his chart is almost all trines. And so it started out like great, like roaring 20s vibes, like everything's awesome. But then his like later life was just everything fell apart.
And that's the author of The Great Gatsby?
Yeah. We can talk about him another time.
I have thoughts.
Yeah.
What is that green light?
Right?
Every English teacher out there, forget about the green light. Your kids don't want to hear about it.
Oh my God, I know. Maybe he just liked green. Like, why does it have to mean something?
Boat lights are green. They literally all are.
Yeah, they are.
It's a requirement.
It means envy time.
I am getting so heated up about this right now. We need to,
Well, we were both English majors.
I know.
I feel like we were traumatized by this green light.
Read it again and read it again.
Yeah.
And read it again. Did you have Gatsby in high school? Because you should read it again.
Oh, good.
That was my college experience.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, so Monday, July 8th, Venus sextiles Uranus at 7:04 a.m. Eastern time, but we're going to feel that all day on Monday. So Venus sextile to Uranus is great. It brings along pleasant surprises in relationships, and it can be a really good opening to meet new people. So this is good for people who are looking for like a new partner to date, or if you're looking to make new friends, this can be bring in like surprises in that. But again, if you remember, a sextile does require some form of action.
Great.
So it's not like you're going to just bump into this person on the street. Maybe you're going to get invited to go to, a cafe, and you have to take that person up on that invitation to meet the person who is going to happen to be at the cafe.
That's how it should be.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm calling that out again.
Exactly. So then that same day, Mercury is sextiling over to Jupiter. Mercury entered Leo last week. We talked about that. And Jupiter is in Gemini right now. And so it's another sextile. So this one is really great for coming up with new ideas, fresh energy. In general, Monday's a good day for new energy coming into your life, new ways of looking at the world and thinking about things and meeting new people.
Sounds like, so last week we had a big Tuesday. Now
Yes.
it seems like we have a big Monday.
Yeah, but not in a bad way.
Yeah.
It's like a big, happy Monday. And obviously, when I say something's happy, not every single person in the world is going to have a happy day, obviously. We all have personal transits. So this is just kind of the cosmic soup of the universe that's happening right now. But, everyone is going through their own transits as well.
I think of it when you talk about that as like, these are the ingredients that are in the bowl for you to make whatever recipe that you want to today.
Right. So a good analogy for it would be like what we're sharing every week is like the weather forecast for the week. And if you look into your own transits, that's telling you, do you happen to have an umbrella in your car, or are you going to have to like walk through the rain?
Right. And maybe some people love the rain. So like, cool. Don't bring your umbrella if you like the rain. But
Right.
either way, Mercury is going to be in retrograde. Enjoy it.
Exactly.
So
You got it. Okay, so the next day, Tuesday, July 9th, Jupiter is sextiling the north node of the moon.
tell me all about nodes, because we
Okay.
had a lot to talk about last week.
We
talked about
skimmed over.
Dark Moon Lilith, some Sailor Moon shit going on last week. So what is with the nodes? Tell
Okay.
me everything.
So the nodes are they're not planets, they're not bodies in the sky. They are points on the moon's elliptical orbit.
Okay.
So the moon's orbit is not round. It's kind of egg-shaped. It's like more oval.
Mhm.
So the north node, there's in Vedic astrology, they call it the head and tail of the dragon. So the north node is the head of the dragon. And at that point, it's when the moon is the furthest away from Earth that it can get over the course of a month. So it takes the moon a month to circle the Earth. That's like a full lunar cycle. And so every month, once the moon is going to be at that furthest north node point. The south node is called the tail of the dragon, and that's when the moon is closest to Earth.
Okay, cool.
So those points do change. Like they're right now, the north node is in Aries, the south node is in Libra, but because the poles of the Earth shift, the moon's orbit shifts, those points do move through the constellations as well.
How did people even track that, before there were NASA level telescopes,
Yeah, I'm not sure really of the history of the nodes. It's something I would love to dive into. I don't have an answer for you today, but we can talk about it sometime.
Maybe that's a deep dive later.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
that's really interesting, because that was either like incredibly studied back in Galileo times, or a more recent astrological invent,
I don't think it was super recent, because I've heard about it a little bit in like Arabic astrology, and the things that they knew back then were so like you'd be like, how do they know that? It's because it was all mathematically calculated.
It's so cool to me.
It's amazing. And it's really like we take for granted the fact that we have apps and computers that can do all this, because it would take somebody like days to draw out a single chart, because they had to do all the calculations by hand. So I do think it's possible that they knew about the nodes back then. I don't think it's a super recent addition.
So cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to distract you there.
A
This
lot
is
of
so
people
neat.
are going to not know about the nodes. I feel like it's not a common one that you
Yeah,
hear
and
about.
I'm not letting you get out of just calling it a dragon and not explaining that. So we'll do that on the next time the nodes come up on the podcast.
Okay, so Jupiter sextile north node. Jupiter transits tend to last about 2 weeks. So we've felt this one building since last week, and we're going to continue to feel it through the next week.
Okay.
So really from like July 2nd to about July 16th, with this peaking and being the strongest on the 9th at 6:03 p.m. Eastern time. Now, this is a really lucky aspect. The north node signifies like opening of doors, like doing new things, new opportunities. But usually there is some level of leaving your comfort zone behind. So sometimes it can feel intimidating or a little scary, but there's also a part of you that really wants it.
Yeah.
And Jupiter is a lucky planet that creates opportunity. The sextile is pleasant. So there's opportunities to enter this new phase of your life that's happening, but you have to kind of leave your comfort zone behind. And if you remember, the sextile is inviting you to take action. So it's not like, oh, I just won the lottery. Like, no, I'm getting this great job opportunity, which could lead to an increase in money.
Or like I've done the good work of weeding my garden for the second week in a row. They're not going to come back this time.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's the opportunity. Like now you're walking through the door of being like, a magical gardener that suddenly just gets all the fruit and vegetables.
I want that.
Yeah.
Because we talked about last time, podcast, writing, and soil.
Yeah, dirt and soil. Love it.
That's the dream.
That's another t-shirt.
We gotta. If you guys want merch, let us know because we're gonna keep bringing up these weird quotes that we can put on t-shirts.
Chiron is like head of the list for me.
Chiron, baby, love you, wounded medic.
Love you, baby.
Love you, baby Chiron. Sweet baby Chiron, you wounded healer, come to me now.
Okay, Wednesday, July 10th, we have the sun trining Saturn at 11:04 p.m. And this is a really great aspect for getting disciplined, ambitious, and getting things done. Like there's definitely a level of taking it to the next level, really, and getting your like determination to guide you forward. So this is not a lazy aspect. It's very much like, oh, I'm so ready to like put in the work. But at the same time, it's more about like thinking about how that could benefit you. So last week we had a Mars and Saturn transit that was really good for like putting in the physical labor and like finding joy in that. Mm-hmm. This week, the sun trining to Saturn is good for like, okay, like I can see that this is going to benefit me. It's going to benefit me to do this, like, to work out a few times this week. And I want to do it. I want to like cross that off my to-do list, or it's going to benefit me to, reach out to this person or to do this thing. Like there's some act of like feeling like you're going to be propelling yourself forward.
Cool. And just a reminder to our listeners out there, we love a trine. We don't love squares.
That's correct. Mm-hmm. You got it. Okay. But not too many trines.
We don't want too many trines. It's going to make us F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Right. If you have like a little bit of cake, that's great. But if you eat the whole cake, you're sick.
That's right. You're just sick.
You're sick in the head.
You're sick in the head and you're obsessed with that green fucking light. Sorry.
Thursday, July 11th. Venus trines Neptune at 10:32 a.m. And then shortly after, it's going to enter Leo. So let's talk about the trine to Neptune first, and then we'll talk about it entering Leo. So Venus trine Neptune is really nice for being creative and having that sort of flow through, almost like a channeled creativity. So people who are artists or who do visual art specifically, because Venus rules over beauty, even people who are like interior designers, or if you're redecorating your house or buying new clothes, you might find that there's almost just this instinctual energy to knowing what's going to look good and feel good for you that day. Mm-hmm. You might also find that you are connecting with other people in a really heartfelt and close-knit way, because Neptune dissolves boundaries and borders, and this is a positive aspect between Venus and Neptune. And then Venus enters Leo at 12:18 p.m. on Thursday the 11th, and it's going to be there till August 4th. Venus in Leo is very dramatic. It's prideful. Venus in Leo is all about like showing off and showing off like what you've got. So for instance, because Venus rules over love, that's like, go public with your relationship, go out on the town, like, introduce your partner to your family, or
change that status.
Are we still doing that?
No, ew, that sounds so gross. Like, no one's doing that. Get off Facebook.
Are we still doing that? Okay. Or conversely, because Venus does rule over creativity as well, maybe you're showing off something you've created to your friends or your family, being like, oh, this is a poem I wrote. Like, let's check it out. Or I'm going to like share that online. I made a song. I'm going to put it up on streaming.
I'll finally introduced my mom to the podcast.
Have you not?
No, I did. We'll try again.
Podcasts, I feel like some people of a certain generation are not maybe as sure of what a podcast is.
Well, that's the thing too, because, she was telling me that she started it the other day. And I don't know if it's that she doesn't like podcasts, but she was like, oh, like I just didn't have time to watch. And it's like, oh, you don't have to watch. Like that's an optional form,
Yeah.
you can do that, but we're not requiring it. I'm not showing you anything cool. It's just my mug, that's about, well, this episode's different. We had Momo.
Yeah. Stuff was happening in the background.
That's
There was
right.
some feline action. Okay. Finally, on Friday, July 12th, we have Venus opposing Pluto in Aquarius at 10:11 a.m. So this is interesting because there's almost a mystic rectangle forming in the sky right now.
Do we have a rhombus?
It's kind of like a lopsided mystic rectangle.
Okay.
So for anyone who missed, I think it was it the first episode, I think, that we talked about mystic rectangles?
It might have been.
It was either the first or the second. And what that is it's this aspect pattern that's formed in the sky that involves 4 different planets that are in opposition to one another, and then they're trining and sextiling. So it's basically like this big rectangle in the sky with like a cross through it. So there's almost a mystic rectangle happening, and it's just because Neptune is a few degrees out of it. So it's not going to happen, but it's like teasing mystic rectangle.
Okay.
So that is really great for intuition and spirituality in general. And with Venus opposite Pluto, this could spell a little bit of issues for some people in romantic relationships. There could be some possessiveness or jealousy or envy coming up, or also with friends. Like you could feel like, oh, all my friends went out to this place and didn't invite me. Like, how dare they?
That's really interesting too, because you just mentioned that we want to show off our relationships, not like 1 day or 2 before, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the energy has shifted in a way where it's like now there's jealousy coming up about those same relationships.
Yeah, exactly. So just be aware of this. If you're feeling that way on Friday the 12th, just know that it probably will pass. Maybe wait before confronting people just to see if this energy dissipates by like Sunday.
Cool.
And so that's what I've got for you for the forecast.
Awesome. Well, sounds great. It sounds like another active week as opposed to last week, which just had a very active day,
Yeah, last week, July 2nd was a lot. I feel like I was in that Neptune retrograde fog, like while we were talking. I was just like, I can't even deal with what's happening. I can't even see. Like the transits are just like in the mist.
In the mist, come to me, transits. Yeah. Let me know what is coming. I don't know. Again, that's Neptune of me. I started a statement and it didn't.
Sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't.
That wasn't my best. Listeners deserve my best.
You're doing great.
So let's dive over to our topic today then.
Okay.
I'm not going to say like this topic isn't my best. It's just broad. Okay. And to get to what I wanted to share with you specifically, I think I backed into this one because I really wanted to profile this person.
Okay.
So let's talk about psychic sensitivity a little bit.
Okay.
And I know that's loaded because that's an umbrella statement and a half, right?
Well, I'm interested to see where you go with it.
So I'm not like aiming at like seeing ghosts or having ESP. It's generally more for me like the opportunity to have an otherworldly experience is what I'm talking about, psychic sensitivity.
Okay, so when you're saying psychic sensitivity, these are more people that are more prone to have these experiences?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And so how do you feel that relates with people? Like, why would some people go through their whole lives and never have anything happen to them whatsoever, and they can be steadfast in that, whereas honestly people like you, it's a daily occurrence?
Right. I mean, some of it I think is astrological. Like there's certain placements and positioning that can make somebody more prone to pick up on that. And then I think it's also just openness, being willing to look at something and not shut it down immediately, but remaining curious and open. And I do think it's a muscle that you can develop for sure, but some people, it's going to be a lot harder. There's some people I know that are, even though they're open, they're just almost like a wall to the paranormal.
Do you mind if we talk about your mom for a little minute?
Oh, absolutely.
Like that? Because that almost epitomizes psychic sensitivity to me. Is your mom has taught me a lot, but she also shared that story about seeing the truck on the beach and turning it off for a long time. And a lot of her adult life has been getting back to the level she was at when she was a teenager.
Yeah. Do you want me to share that?
I would
story?
love to. Yeah.
So my mom was really psychic around the time that she became like 10, 11, like maybe around the time she was entering junior high. She was very intuitive and had what she described as ESP. And for her, she would get very specific visions of something that was going to happen, down to like the details of what people were wearing, what was said at the time. That was her specific ability.
Yeah.
And so she had a lot of that. Like she would always know when her mother was making beef stew for dinner, and she'd call home and be like, "Can I stay at my friend's house for dinner?" And her mom would be like, "Well, why?" And she's like, "I don't want beef stew. I never told you I was making that." Like my mom's like, "I just knew." And so this one time, I think she was like 13 or 14, and there had been many occasions of this, but this is the time when it started to scare her. So she was with her friend who really wanted to see this boy who was like a year or two older than them. And she asked if she would see him that day. And my mom saw the two of them walking on the beach, and she saw a pickup truck come up beside them on the beach, like on the sand.
Wouldn't make much sense.
And it
right?
was summer, and she looked inside and saw the boy, and he was wearing a flannel shirt, which is also weird because it's summer. He honked twice and asked if they wanted a ride. And so she told her friend that. They went to the beach, and all of that played out exactly as my mom had described it. And my mom, when she saw him open the door and offer them a ride, she took off running. And the friend was like, "No, Kathy, come back." And she got into the car, and my mom took off. And at that point, she was so scared that she turned it off. And like you said, she's, for a while that was off for her. And there would be little moments that would come through. She couldn't turn it off completely, but
Right.
she never had that level again. And so it took her, I think when she was probably in her 30s or 40s, she really wanted to open that up again. But it was almost like a vault that she had to kind of unlock.
I remember her talking to us about the work she was doing to try to unlock it and make herself feel safe again.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe plays into it too. Is like you can be an open canvas, but like refuse to touch any of the paint.
Exactly.
So thank you for sharing that story, because it brings into a lot of what I would consider psychic sensitivities, right? Yeah. It's the stuff like from the last episode, the ASPR would research. These are the moments that they would try to attach specific levels of intricacy to it.
Yeah.
Again, talking about how Dan Aykroyd was into that stuff when he made Ghostbusters. Do you remember the favorite scene, or the famous scene where Bill Murray is flipping over the cards?
Yeah, and he's trying to guess the symbols on them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The guy's getting every one,
Yeah.
and the girl's getting none of them, but he's buzzing the guy because he wants to go on a date.
Right.
So, like, God, I love Dan Aykroyd. But anyways, that's kind of like the same thing. Like, what is happening that's allowing people to have these experiences like your mom, which is what I was researching on this topic. And I actually came across a new term that like I've never heard, but have you heard of HSPs?
Highly sensitive people?
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yes,
I'd never heard about that, but it's talking about like the difference between your mom's truck vision versus people who feel like tension when they enter a room and are trying to figure out who the source of that might be.
It's so interesting because for the longest time when I was growing up, I assumed I wasn't intuitive or psychic because I didn't see things the way that my mom saw them.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I feel energy, and I know like that's more like what I have. Like I feel the energy or the tension. And so that's also a sensitivity, but it's just different.
It's different.
Yeah.
So again, with the differences, that's what I want to just call out, that this is an umbrella term.
Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to define this for anyone.
Right.
I'm just trying to hone in so that there's a reason why I picked today's topic. I don't know. There's a reason why I picked today's person.
Okay. The topic and the person.
Exactly. I'm trying to back into it, but I'm jumbling my words. So do you want their birthday?
Yes, give it to me. Give it.
So 7/13/1940 in Muirfield, United Kingdom.
Okay, and we don't have the time, correct?
We don't have the time. I think that, again, the UK was just like, it's a baby.
It's a baby, and he's here on this day, or she's here on this day.
Oi, it's a baby. Is that anything?
Oi, it's a baby?
Yeah, I tried to do an accent. I didn't.
No, it was an accent. I just thought you meant, like, was it a quote?
No, it's not a quote. It wasn't even a good accent. Let's continue like I didn't do it.
Okay, so this person has a T-square in their chart as well. And if you remember, Judy Garland, who we covered in episode 2, had a T-square. So their T-square involves the Scorpio moon, their Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, and their Leo stellium. This person has a stellium as well.
A stellium in the T-square?
Yes.
Okay.
So let's talk about the stellium, and then we'll talk about the T-square.
Yeah.
So this person has their Mars, their Mercury, and their Pluto in Leo. and they are all conjunct one another pretty tightly. Like they're all like on top of each other in the sky.
Does the compact nature of the planets increase like the efficacy of the energies that they're providing?
I think so. And so basically, when you have a conjunction or a stellium, you can't really separate the energies for yourself because they're almost one. I kind of think of it as like trains, like cars of a train, like they're all hooked together. You can't just see one. Anytime you experience a transit to one, you're experiencing a transit to all of them at once.
Gotcha.
So it's just harder for this person to differentiate between the energies. So for them, they have Mars, Mercury, and Pluto. So this is a very intense communicator, somebody who communicates in a very intense, but at the same time, very dramatic and expressive way. I would assume that this person has like a memorable style of like writing or speaking.
Okay. I'm not giving you
You're
anything.
not giving me anything.
Keep going.
I don't know. This feels like I'm out on a limb here.
Nope.
Okay. So,
You're doing great.
it's T square. This is part of a T square. So for anyone who didn't catch that episode, a T square is when you have two planets that are opposing each other that are then both squared by another planet. In this case, they're being squared by all three of those planets in the Leo stellium.
Oh, wow. Okay. That doesn't sound helpful.
It's intense.
Yeah.
It's very intense. I almost get a dramatic feel though, because there's Leo energy, there's Jupiter energy. So I feel like this person might have had very intense emotions that they needed to find an outlet for. There's a lot of intensity there. This person might have been like a lot growing up. Like they could have been really rebellious or got into a lot of trouble.
Okay.
And needed to find an outlet. I don't know if they found that, but if they didn't, they could have gotten into trouble.
We'll find that outlet in the next part of this podcast.
Okay.
Astro nailing it again. Keep going.
Okay. I'm scared. They have a well aspected Sun, Neptune, and Uranus. Like those are really positively favored. They have like this little beautiful trine between their Uranus and Neptune, which is a generational aspect that everyone born in 1940 had. But then that's sextiling over to their Sun in Cancer. So this gives them a very compassionate and unique view on relationships. Like they're able to really relate to other people and to empathize with them.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's not like in traditional manners. It wouldn't be like, oh, I'm a nurse, or oh, I'm like taking care of people. It's more like I understand and I'm going to help you to, you know, show your true self to the world, or, you know, feel confident.
Yeah.
Like they might be good at like bolstering other people's confidence.
I would love to be bolstered by this person.
Okay.
It would be very.
Are they bolstering you in general?
I think they helped bolster me during my childhood.
Okay.
They didn't know that, but.
So you don't know this person personally?
No, I don't actually.
Okay.
That'd be pretty cool.
So Venus is squaring over to Neptune, and this is going to give them like a really unusual way of interacting with other people, but relationships could be difficult. They might find that they have really high expectations of relationships, or their relationships might be like slip through their fingers in some way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that resonates, but that could be. It could also give them a very unique style of creativity, but at the same time, it's like harder to have more like solid and lasting relationships.
Yeah. I didn't find that relationship stuff. Obviously, like in the research, no one was like screaming that they have a problem making relationships, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you might just see that on Wikipedia, like, oh, they've been married like 6 times, you know?
Yeah,
or whatever.
exactly. So
But, yeah.
I'll let you connect the dots on this person.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so I spotlighted this person this week specifically for our friend from Haunt Me, Anna Halloran.
What, she like requested this?
No, she didn't request this, but I know she's out there listening. This is one of her favorite people. So they're known to me as Jean-Luc Picard, but this is Patrick Stewart, captain, one of my favorite captains in Starfleet history.
Oh my gosh, I grew up on Star Trek Enterprise. My dad loved it.
Oh my God. But yeah, the original series I watched with my mom, but like for me, it was like after Jeopardy, you know,
Yes.
on
Space,
weeknights,
the final frontier. These are the
voyages.
just of the Starship Enterprise.
Da, da, da. Yeah, exactly. So I loved Next Generation.
Yes.
So when I was making my big document of birth dates, I specifically went out and looked to see when Patrick Stewart was born, because I just wanted you to do his birth chart, because he's just such a kind, wonderful, influence on everyone he touches.
Absolutely. And he does have a very dramatic and unique speaking style.
And it's more so than I think bet you would even know. He started specifically in theater because it was an outlet for him, and he was able to get to that. Like, it was his lifestyle was not set up for him to be able to do that. So he had to sacrifice a lot to put, I guess, energy and investment in his dramatic career. So I'll jump into that right now. Okay.
Sounds good.
So he was born to a mother who was a weaver and a father who was a sergeant major in the parachute regiment of World War II.
Wow.
Who also experienced the Dunkirk evacuation and suffered PTSD from it.
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah, it's 1940 in England, so that's a different lived experience than I think you would see here in the United States, right?
For sure.
So unfortunately, with that, he grew up with very little to their name and experienced intense abuse from his father repeatedly. So he tried to find an escape, I think. I'm reading into that. But in school, he really quickly took to performing arts. And he credits an English teacher who gave him a Shakespearean script to memorize as the push that he needed to get his life moved into the thespian track, I think.
That's so much like what I was seeing about how like there's maybe a troubled childhood or like just some intensity of emotions, and that gave him that outlet.
Yep.
I'm so glad he found
He
that.
had to find that outlet.
Yeah.
And he found it early too, because it said that at 15 he performed in a local theater and then left school.
Oh, wow.
He just knew that this was his path that he wanted to take. And so he supported himself then, working as a newspaper reporter and an obituary writer while just solely focusing on acting training for theater.
That's so cool.
Because of a theater role, he also somehow became a trained boxer, which I think is just so cool to think of, like Patrick Stewart just squaring off, like
I love that.
I love it too.
Also, I want to say that the Leo stellium, I mean, Leos are known for being actors. There's so many famous actors and actresses who are Leos, and he's not. He's a Cancer, but he has a lot of Leo in his chart. So
That's really fascinating.
That would lend itself to
Do you think
talent.
it's that celestial confidence kind of that I've seen in Leos?
Yeah, Leos like to be seen, and they love to like light other people up. So a lot of them really like to be on stage because they like to make people smile. They like to affect other people.
Love it. I
Yeah.
think that's really cool. So we went over his theater. What I thought was pretty interesting is that I know him best from Star Trek. Star Trek didn't start until 1987 and it ran until 1994. That was also his start in televised acting.
So he was 47.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So there's still time for us.
Okay. Yeah,
so
it's never too late.
when he was picked to play Jean-Luc Picard, the LA Times called him an unknown British Shakespearean actor. I just think that's crazy. So he was so into this that he was known as the guy doing Shakespeare.
I mean, Star Trek completely changed and made him a household name at that point. Then he became Professor X.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so many more things too. And he had to switch from theater to TV and was quoted saying it was very hard for him. He said that he was incredibly dedicated to knowing the script back to front, and was surprised when actors had showed up to set not knowing their lines. Because working that way, he was able to, film a scene and move forward, and you don't have to like know everything all at once.
Right.
I think that's really cool to just call out that he was like, oh, wow, I don't have to learn this whole 60-minute script every episode.
Yeah. Oh, that's so much. Yeah. But it's funny because I did acting when I was younger, in theater and drama club or whatever. And yeah, like it's so true that in theater, you're expected to know the script back and front.
Mm-hmm.
So it must be so different for TV because you just need to like know what you're about to film that day.
And it must be cool as like being 47 years old and experiencing that for the first time.
Yeah.
Like still trying new things.
Well, he did great. He figured it out.
Do you have any inkling of what Jean-Luc Picard has to do with psychic sensitivity, though?
I have literally no idea. I've been thinking about it as you've been talking.
So I put this story together because I wanted to profile him, and I found this article from 2023 in USA Today called "Buyer Be Scared, Patrick Stewart Sells Haunted Los Angeles Home Without Revealing Ghost Presence." So
Okay, so this is the second haunted celebrity home that
that's
we've
right.
covered.
And
Wow.
I actually looked to see if this was also Elvira's house, and it's not.
Oh my God, that would be
Could you
crazy. But
imagine?
I love this. I can't wait. Like, we can talk about like 100 celebrity hauntings. I'm
Totally.
fine with it.
Absolutely. I am too. With Patrick Stewart, it seemed like he was a little bit less fine with it, though.
That's why he was leaving.
He's leaving. So he stated that he's had lifelong experiences with the paranormal. And I just want to read this quote to you real quick from him from that article. He says, and I can't do his voice at all. I'm not even going to try.
Don't.
I have been witnessing stuff since I was 12 years old. Stewart, 83, tells USA Today. And it has stayed with me throughout my entire life. I have sometimes had quite intense feelings and nighttime experiences, and occasionally I witness things. It happens to me, and I'm not inventing it. Why would I invent it? Because I've always feel slightly foolish when I talk about these subjects. Poor
So
Patrick.
true,
Just
yes.
call us. We'll listen.
So many people do feel foolish, though. It's so sad.
You ready for his experiences, though? Because these are awesome.
Yes.
So his earliest experience, he says that he remembers seeing an old painting in his tutor's home. And when he would look at it, it was wrapped in an ethereal mist, or at night, he said that it would glow to him.
Wow. That reminds me a little bit of one of your first paranormal experiences,
Exactly.
which we'll have to share some other time.
We'll do some other time. And then something later in his life, he states that at his mother's funeral, he approached the casket to say goodbye to her. And as he approached it, he said that he heard in his ear his mother's voice say, "Hello, Patrick, my love."
Wow.
And that was just like the last experience
That's
he
really
had hearing his
nice.
mom's voice. Yeah. So he also states that he's had experiences throughout the rest of his life, and he's living in a haunted house, listening to other people who have experiences. You know, like this isn't something that only happened in that house, right? So that's psychic sensitivity that has happened to you throughout your life because it's part of you.
Yes.
And I just think it's neat that like me and you have shared similar experiences that Patrick Stewart has with the paranormal is out there, and you just need to be open to it.
I will carry that with me. Wow.
Cool. So that's it.
Captain-
Patrick Stewart connected to psychic sensitivity.
Captain Picard. I love it.
That's right.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ty.
Thank you, Ash. So recapping for this week, what are like the top, let's do the biggest takeaway that you want people to know about for next week?
I think that this is a really big week for new opportunities, but you have to be willing to kind of push yourself out of your comfort zone. The Jupiter sextile North Node is a really big transit. It's one of the bigger transits of the month. So I think that it's a really good opportunity for doors to be opening to you, opportunities to be showing up. But as I mentioned, they're not going to just fall into our laps. So might involve taking a risk, taking a leap of faith, but it's worth it.
I love it. Cool. Well, that wraps up this episode, and we'll bring it back next Monday with some more forecasts and some more cosmic chit chat.
Yeah. And if you want a deep dive on the transits for this week, and even the ones we didn't talk about, then head on over to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/unclouded_I. And for $5 a month, you will get my Planetary Potion podcast every week, where I go into every single transit that's happening. It's a lot,
It's
but
a lot.
it's for the people that love the stars.
I'm glad you do it for them.
Do it for the people.
Do it
Ty.
for the people and the Patreons.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome. I'll talk to you next week then, Ash.
Okay.
Unclouded Eye stars Ashley Brooks and Ty Gowan. Produced and directed by Nick Nordforce. Music is by Ashley Jane Cecilia and Jay Karen. Our community manager is Aaron Cross. Art is by Don Aquarius. That lovely opening. It's presented by Haunt Me. You can follow the Unclouded Eye on Instagram and as well on Patreon, which is unclouded_I. And we want to give a special shout out to Michelle Adams and Mara Moon for being proud Patreon sponsors this week and helping the show keep going. So thank you guys.